Hello and welcome to a very special edition of Flickering Dreams. This is an Oscars special. Oscars special, you say? Dr. Bob, you're crazy. We've had the Oscars. Oh no, we are looking ahead to the 96th Academy Awards next March and trying to predict the best film candidates. This is Flickering Dreams. So, welcome to this special edition of Flickering Dreams. We're not doing any film reviews this week. It's Easter week, so we're having a week off from the film reviews after our epic review session last time. But what we are going to do is something ludicrous, which Mr. Scott Forbes, who is on this call, suggested that we do, which is to predict the best film nominees that will make up the 2024 Oscars Awards next March, assuming it's in March again. Which feels a crazy thing to do. And also joining me, Bob Mann, with Scott Forbes, is Andy Godrey again. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a gander at our respective lists and just see if we've got any sort of similarity between them and if we can agree on any of these films that are going to make the top 10. So, Scott, why don't you start with your top film on there, and then we can see if we actually agree with them or not.
Sure. So I've got mine down in a sort of most likely to get nominated list. So the one that I'm going to start off with is Dune Part 2.
Come with me. Desert power. It's confusing.
Take good care of your family.
Considering how well Dune did last time, the first part of it, I see no reason at all why the second part won't also get multiple nominations, probably win lots of techs again, and it's almost a certainty to get a Best Picture nomination.
Yep, and I also have Dune Part 2. Ding!
And I have Dune Part 2 as well.
Yes! Get in. We've got 3 out of 3 for Dune Part 2. Well, that's a good start, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, you'd have to think that Denis Villeneuve would need to do something seriously wrong to screw up that franchise, I think, given the first film. That's good. So what's your second one? Let's see if we can get 2 out of 2 here, Scott.
Okay, for my second one, I've went with a film that I've had on this same list for the past 2 years, but it keeps getting delayed, and that is Martin Scorsese's Killers of a Flower Moon. Martin Scorsese, he's pretty solid when it comes to this sort of thing, and the cast list for this is incredible, with the likes of Leonardo DiCaprio, you've got Robert De Niro, Brendan Fraser, Jesse Plemons. It's like great director, great cast. This feels like another certainty for me.
And I also had Killers of the Flower Moon. Is that 2 out of 2?
My list, yep.
Yep, there we go. I think it's now been confirmed with a November release. Yeah, I think I read that. So
I read that today too, Bob.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, we're doing well. We know what we're talking about here. Clearly, it's just going so well. We're going to be over with in 10 minutes for this. Maybe not. What's your third one, Scott?
So the third one, I'll be honest, I don't know too much about this film, but I've heard a lot of early critics are loving it. And it's a film called Past Lives.
What a good story this is. Childhood sweethearts who reconnect 20 years later and realize they were meant for each other. In the story, I would be the evil white American husband standing in the way of destiny.
Shut up. He was just this kid in my head for such a long time. I think I just missed him.
Did he miss you?
As I said, I don't know too much about it, but it's being tipped to be this year's Minari. It's sort of a American-Korean sort of movie. Like I said, I don't know much about it, but this is one that the critics apparently love.
Right. I do not have that one.
No, I
on
don't
my
either.
list. Yeah, Past Lives.
Very
Okay.
good.
So next up, Scott.
Okay, this one you guys might have as well. We've been seeing the trailer coming out before practically every movie for a long time. And this is Christopher Nolan's new film, Oppenheimer.
Theory will take you only so far. I don't know if we can be trusted with such a weapon.
I think we know what Christopher Nolan's like. We know what the fanboys are like. Tenet wasn't quite peak Nolan, but it was also the first big film to come out sort of post-pandemic. So we can sort of understand to some extent why that might not have been as successful as other films. But this one, judging by what we've seen from the stills and the trailer so far, feels like it could be another big one that could get a Best Picture nomination.
Yep. And I also have Oppenheimer.
I have that as well.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing, given Christopher Nolan's approach to visual effects, or the lack of visual effects in his film, will be how he actually delivers on the central nuclear events in Oppenheimer. Because for me, I think Dunkirk was ruined by a lack of visual effects to a degree. That armada of small boats, which was about 5 little boats bobbing up and down. However much Kenneth Branagh kind of looked in awe, they were still 5 little boats bobbing up and down. I thought, God's sake, Christopher Nolan, use some VFX, please. Right. So that's the one question that I would have that says, how is this actually going to work? But we'll see. But yeah, that's 3 out of 4. We agree with you, Scott.
Okay, so number 5, I would say those top 4 I was quite confident in. Now we're getting into a little bit more difficult grounds, but the next one I'm going to go for is The Color Purple. Now, a lot of people didn't even know this film's getting remade, but the original is an amazing film. It's actually got some Oscar history in itself, in that it was nominated for, I could get this wrong, but I think it was around about 10 nominations or something like that, and it went home empty-handed.
Yes.
Which I think it's the film to get the most nominations without winning anything.
Yeah.
Now this one, the cast is incredible. It's more based on the sort of stage show musical that there's been since.
I understand it's a musical.
Yeah. So there's potential that it might not do so well, but I'm hoping for a sort of West Side Story style. People will jump on board and this will get a lot of recognition. But as I said, I'm not certain with this one.
Yeah, I'm not sure about it. I didn't have that one on my list.
It makes up the list, but I did put it down, Scott, as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes they go for these sort of worthy stories for type films, don't they? But we'll see.
Next up.
So next one, I suspect one or both of you might also have, and I've got Ferrari. And this is the new Michael Mann film starring Adam Driver, and it's about Enzo Ferrari, the basically founder, I believe, of Ferrari. I don't know too much about what the actual story is, but with those names behind it, it feels like there's a good chance this could get a nomination.
Yes, I have Ferrari as well.
And so do I.
I understand Michael Mann's been, no relation, I have to add, has been developing this one for 20 years, which is pretty impressive, isn't it?
I didn't realize he was working on it that long. That's quite interesting.
It's a very long-term project for him. Interestingly, Michael Mann hasn't directed a film since 2015. That was Black Hat. And then before that, it was Public Enemies with Johnny Depp back in 2009. So he's really not been directing much at all. So he's clearly had this one on his mind, probably from for most of the last 20 years, and he's kind of clearly a passion project. So you wouldn't want to really bet against that, would you?
No, and it could be one of those where the comeback story might end up with like a Best Director nomination that goes with it or something like that. That's what I do when I think about these lists, by the way, is I think about the potential for Best Picture, but I try and work out what else could come with it.
Yeah.
Could it get a Best Director nomination? Could it get some Best Actor, Actress nominations with it as well? And if there's anything I'm 50-50 about, I try and think about the package and what could lead to a stronger Best Picture nomination.
I've done that
And
as well,
that's
Scott. I mean, I've written down my favourites for Best Actress, Best Supporting Actor, and Best Score even for next year, even though I haven't seen the film.
Wow.
What's your next one, Scott?
The next one I've got on my list is a film called Saltburn. I don't know too much about the narrative of this one, but I know it's about the British aristocracy, and it is a new film from Emerald Fennell, who basically broke out as a director of high regard for a promising young woman.
Yeah.
I know it stars Barry Keoghan in the lead role, and from the little bits I've sort of seen on the internet, the early reports are that the quality of the writing in this one is a step up from Promising Young Woman. So considering how well people appreciated the writing for that film, if this one's even better, then it's definitely got to be in with a chance of getting some nominations.
That's good. Okay. That wasn't on my radar at all. No.
Not on mine either. No, I'd read about it, but it wasn't on my list.
Next one on my list is one that I had last year on my Dark Horses list, and it's a film called Maestro.
Yes.
This is a film that was, I think, written, directed, produced, starring Bradley Cooper. It really is his baby, and it's all about him playing Leonard Bernstein. And I think it takes place over quite a number of years of his life and tells a story of when he's sort of from young or middle-aged man through to becoming an old man. Again, it's one of those biopics that it's a traditional sort of Oscar Best Picture nominee. In recent years, whether that's the kind of thing they're still going to go for, it might not be. I think there's early reports that some changes have had to be made to the film since early screenings, which is never a good sign. But when I think that there's potential for the sort of acting nominations and maybe a few texts to come along with this, or sound score, that sort of thing, that's why this one's made my list.
Yep, I have it on my list as well. I think, as you say, it kind of has Oscar written all over it as a type of film.
Yeah, I have it on mine.
Yeah. Next up.
So similar, it's another, well, sort of biopic-ish.
Okay, I think I know what's coming here, but
I've gone with Napoleon.
Oh, not the biopic that I've got on my list, but yeah, okay.
So Napoleon is starring Joaquin Phoenix, and it is directed by the ever prolific Ridley Scott. If we go by recent years, we had the likes of House of Gucci and The Last Duel, both coming out in the same year from Ridley Scott, proving Quentin Tarantino wrong that you don't necessarily hit a wall when you get to 60 as a director. Again, this one, it might be great, it might be rubbish, but I feel like it's got that potential to succeed. If it is as good as it could be, then it could be right up there.
Yeah.
It's got the potential to be epic, hasn't it? Really,
absolutely.
Yeah, this was actually filmed down the road from me in Wiltshire, because they were after hundreds and hundreds of extras, but clearly not 60-year-old extras, because I didn't get called for it. But just about every casting company in the south of England was trying to find people for that. But, yeah, okay, I actually missed that one off my list, but you might well be right that that's a good one to back. What number are you on now, Scott?
So that was number 9. So number 10, there's sort of 3 films that I had that I wasn't quite sure what to squeeze into that last 10 spot. But the one I've went for is a film called Poor Things. And this is the new film from Yorgos Lanthimos. Mm-hmm. Now, we saw his last film, The Favourite, did very well. He does like making weird films. And if there's anything we've learned in recent years, the Oscars are now embracing weird. So this one, I think it's a bit of a sort of Frankenstein-esque movie from what I've read about it. You've got likes of Emma Stone and some of his other favourites in there. Again, if it wasn't for the last couple of years, I would say no, this isn't really an Oscar type of film. But now it could be. I'm going to squeeze that into my number 10 slot, but I'm by no means confident about it.
Okay, right. So that's your 10.
So
you've missed.
I had 8 of Scott's 10.
Oh, wow.
The 2 that are different, Scott, is I've gone with The Killer, David Fincher's film, starring Michael Fassbender. And this is about an assassin who suddenly starts to develop a conscience for his victims. So I mean, again, whether, I've kind of put that in as a filler into the list or whatever, I don't know. But sorry, I had 7, I beg your pardon. I've gone with The Killer.
I had The Killer as well. David Fincher, Michael Fassbender. I think it's got to stand a good chance of getting some serious recognition. Yeah.
I was going to say I had that on my long list, but I only went against it because thrillers don't tend to get Best Picture nominations, which is the reason I left it off.
Okay. The other one that I've gone for as a real outsider is the Disney film that's coming up, Elemental.
Meet the residents of Element City. Air usually has their head in the clouds.
Oh, my new jacket!
Now, they have been known to nominate animated films for Best Picture before. I'm just putting it in my list as a possible contender. I think it will probably win Best Animated Feature from what we're seeing. I mean, we don't know the plot of Wish yet, which is a Disney film coming out in December, but Elemental comes out in June. So I have put that in my list. And then as a complete outsider, I've gone for Taika, I can never say his name, Waititi, new film.
Taika Waititi, yeah.
Yeah, him, which also stars Michael Fassbender, which is called Next Goal Wins. And we know Jojo Rabbit was a great success. So Next Goal Wins is the story of an infamously terrible American soccer team. And I put that in there because I think it might well scoop some awards and therefore might be in the mix. So the 3 that were different, Scott, was I had The Killer, Next Goal Wins, and Elemental.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
I had Next Goal Wins in my I've got 7 sort of other films that might be in there, and Next Goal Wins is one of them, which I had last year as well. It was meant to come out last year, and I think a lot of sort of Oscar prognosticators were tipping it last year, but Armie Hammer had to be replaced. So,
oh yes, I had Next Goal Wins on my long list as well. I've kind of got a reserve list because you don't always know that all of these films are indeed going to get released this year, and we may find they miss the Oscar cutoff. So the ones I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 5 of your list, Scott, and I've also got The Killer from your list, Andy. The other 4 I've got are the film that I saw last night, which is Air, the Matt Damon and Ben Affleck Nike story.
There's nothing cool about Nike. You would have to have a pretty compelling pitch.
I can tell them the one thing the other companies can't compete with. Our basketball division is terrible.
I do not love it.
I was blown away by this film, so I'm even more. I came out of it and said, I'm going to put a tenner on this to win Best Picture. That's how strong I thought it would. I was also going to put a tenner on Viola Davis to win Best Supporting Actress as well, because it's really good. It just oozes 80s style. We'll review it properly next week because it comes out in a few days' time. But Ben Affleck directing, he's obviously got the history there with Argo of winning Best Picture in the past, and it just felt like a really solid Oscar film to me. I may be wrong. Another one I've got on my list is again influenced by a potential Best Actor award here, is Joaquin Phoenix in Beau is Afraid, which I don't know much about. But the acting that is evident in the trailer for that is pretty phenomenal, and it looks a really interesting film to me.
Hi, Carrot. It's Mom. I'm just calling to say that I'm so excited to see you tomorrow. You're my angel, and I love you. Okay, I love you. Okay, bye, sweetie. I love you.
Are you at the airport?
I'm on my way. It's not safe, is it? What do you think I should do?
I'm sure you'll do the right thing, sweetheart.
So I don't know whether there's any buzz. I've kind of picked these films without considering the background buzz behind them. But I reckon Beau is Afraid might just come through as one of the more interesting films of the year that might get nominated.
It's a film from Ari Aster, so he did Hereditary recently, so it's going to be quite divisive, I think.
Yes, I think it's going to be a very divisive film, but hey, look where the Oscar went to last year, and I wouldn't have predicted that, so we'll see. The next one I've got is Asteroid City, the Wes Anderson film, whose trailer I noticed just dropped this week, and you have to say it's the most Wes Anderson-y trailer I have ever seen from a Wes Anderson film.
You're not here.
We're not there. The car exploded. Come get the girls. I have to stay here with Woodrow.
I'm not the chauffeur. I'm the grandfather. Where are you?
Asteroid City, Farm Route 6, mile 75.
Now, Wes Anderson kind of hasn't had a huge amount of critical success. I mean, Grand Budapest Hotel, of course, and so on was one. But this has an absolutely stellar cast, and it sounds like an interesting concept for a story as well. So, bit of a long shot, I think, but I've put Asteroid City in the list. And my final one of my 10 is another biopic. It's another Martin Scorsese film with Leo DiCaprio, and that is Roosevelt as a presidential biopic. Now, whether this film actually emerges this year or not, I don't know, but Martin Scorsese, Leo DiCaprio, presidential biopic just has the hallmark of making an Oscar list either next year or the year after.
Well, they liked Lincoln, didn't they? So
they certainly did, yeah. I had a number on a reserve list if some of those didn't come on, which I'll just rattle through. I put Tetris down again. I don't know a lot about it. Taron Egerton.
I played for 5 minutes. I still see falling blocks in my dreams.
A bizarre story about getting the rights to the iconic game back from Russia.
Filmed in Aberdeen.
Hey, yeah. Oh, great. One I really like the look of, but as you say, I don't think thrillers will make the list, is Ghosted, which is an action flick coming up with Chris Evans and Ana de Armas.
Any word?
She ghosted him. I bet she isn't even seeing your text.
She does travel a lot for work.
Go to her.
I'm going to London.
Looks glossy and high class. And Best Girl Wins as well. And my final film is more by hope and prayer than judgment. So
I'll
Andy,
have a word.
Maybe you can have a word. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
I don't believe in magic. But a few times in my life, I've seen things I can't explain. And I've come to believe it's not so much what you believe. It's how hard you believe it.
I so want that film to be as good as The Last Crusade. I
want it to be as good as Raiders. Raiders is my favourite.
Yeah, Raiders is the go-to, but we can't really hope for that necessarily. But if it's as good as The Last Crusade, I will be a happy man. And if it gets any sort of critical appraise as well, that would be great.
I'm going on strike if Karen Allen isn't in it.
Of course, your friend. Yes.
Okay.
I did have a few others in my Dark Horses list. I'll just rattle off as well. I have a film called Rustin, which is a biopic about the gay civil rights activist Bayard Rustin, starring Coleman Domingo. That could get in there somewhere. There's a film from Todd Haynes called May December. There is another biopic with Regina King called Shirley, where she plays Shirley Chisholm. And there's a film from Alexander Payne starring Paul Giamatti called The Holdovers. And those are all ones I considered as well.
Right, good. So let's just have a quick recap of our respective lists that we've chosen for our Oscar Best Film predictions. The colour coding here is green if we all agreed on the films, orange if 2 of us agreed, and black otherwise. So Scott's top 10 nominees are Dune Part 2, Killers of a Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, Ferrari and Maestro, and I'll refer to that as the top 5 because we all agreed on those. He also selected Napoleon and The Colour Purple, which he agreed on with Andy, and his standalone films were Past Lives, Saltburn and Poor Things. Scott also has a reserve list in priority order of Next Girl Wins, Rustin, May December, Shirley and The Holdovers. Moving on to Andy's list, he also had that top 5. He also agreed with Scott on Napoleon and The Colour Purple. He also added in The Killer, David Fincher's film, which he agreed on with me, and his standalone films were Elemental, the Disney cartoon, and Next Goal Wins. Finally, my list, I also had that top 5, and I agreed with Andy on The Killer, and my 4 standalone films are Air, directed by Ben Affleck, Beau is Afraid, Asteroid City, the new Wes Anderson film, and Roosevelt, directed by Martin Scorsese. My reserve list in priority order were Napoleon, Next Goal Wins, Tetris, Ghosted, and Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. So that's an interesting list. We will return to them in our Oscar special next year and laugh at how wrong we were about them. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be another good year of film watching, isn't it?
Even if we're wrong, we've got a bunch of good films to watch.
Yeah, a bunch of good films to watch.
It's been a great year so far, I think, already. And Air capped it really last night. It was just fantastic.
Yeah, I thought it was great. It was great. Good. Right, gentlemen, it was a quick one today, but I think an interesting discussion about the future films coming up. We'll be back next week with a more regular film review session. But until then, Scott Forbes, Andy Godfrey, thank you very much. Have a wonderful, relaxing Easter. Obviously, Andy, your Easter will be more of a working, relaxing holiday, but enjoy.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Bye.
Enjoy your cinema trips.
Thanks for listening to Flickering Dreams. Please subscribe to the podcast to get the latest edition delivered directly to your ears.